In Game of Thrones, honor is not a strategy. It's a vulnerability. Ned Stark walks into King's Landing with a soldier's spine and a father's conscience. He believes that truth has weight, that if exposed, it will tilt the scales. But, as we know, King's Landing is not governed by weight. It's governed by leverage, by secrets, by quiet alliances forged in shadowed rooms. And so the man who refuses to play that game is removed from it. The lesson seems clear. Honor loses, right? And if that were the end of the story, perhaps the series would be nothing more than nihilism dressed in armor. But we know it's not the end, because the story doesn't conclude at the execution of Ned Stark. It unfolds over years. And over years, something else becomes visible. Power protects itself. Until it doesn't. Consider the world beyond fiction. The modern world. The modern news cycle. For decades, there's existed a network of wealth, influence, and unspeakable abuse surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. Money insulated it, connections shielded it, reputation obscured it. People who asked questions were, well, dismissed. Voices that raised concern were ignored. Power laughed at consequence, and might still be doing so. It looks untouchable. It looks permanent. And if you were observing from the outside, it may have felt like this. Corruption wins, again, always. But here's the truth. Corruption relies on silence. It relies on fear. It relies on the assumption that truth will exhaust itself before it ever reaches daylight. And history shows something different. Slowly, painfully slowly, truth corrodes what fear builds. Investigations persist, documents surface, structures that seemed immovable begin to fracture. Not quickly, not cleanly, but inevitably. Power that operates in shadow cannot survive exposure forever. And this is the pattern Game of Thrones understands better than most viewers realize. Ned Stark dies, but the rot he uncovered does not disappear. The Lannisters cling to the throne through intimidation and bloodshed. Joffrey rules through cruelty, Cersei through manipulation, Tywin through calculation. For a time it works. For a time, ruthlessness appears efficient. But fear is not loyalty. Control is not stability. And power built on coercion demands constant reinforcement. It devours itself. Robb Stark falls. Jon Snow is betrayed. Honor bleeds. Something else is happening quietly beneath the surface. The honorable, you see, inspire memory. And memory inspires allegiance. The North remembers. Winterfell does not forget. The people who witnessed integrity carry it forward. That's the difference between domination and legacy. Domination requires constant force. Legacy requires only remembrance. The Epstein case is not a fantasy kingdom. It's real. It's dark. It is not resolved in the poetic symmetry of a television narrative. However, I think it is a reminder of something fundamental. Systems built on secrecy are fragile. They appear invincible until scrutiny becomes relentless. They appear eternal until evidence accumulates. The exposure itself becomes erosion. And erosion is a patient thing. We live in a moment where cynicism is fashionable, where outrage burns bright and fades quickly, where it often feels like powerful people escape consequence and principled people absorb the cost. It can make integrity, honestly, feel foolish, naive, strategically unsound. That's exactly how honor feels in King's Landing. And yet, ask yourself this. When you think of Game of Thrones, who do you admire? Is it the man who manipulated the system most effectively? Or is it the man who refused to surrender his conscience? When the story ends, who stands in Winterfell? Who rebuilds? Who carries the future? It is not the architect of fear. It is the inheritor of integrity. You see, honor does not guarantee survival. It doesn't guarantee victory in the present moment. What it guarantees is alignment. And alignment builds something stronger than power. It builds trust. And trust is generational. Tyranny is immediate. Integrity is enduring. The Lannisters rule through intimidation. The Epstein elites rule through intimidation. Secrets. But their house fractures from within. Secrets breed paranoia. Paranoia breeds betrayal. Betrayal consumes them. Sure, Ned Stark loses his life, but his children inherit something unbreakable, a moral center. And that moral center becomes the foundation upon which Winterfell rises again. And in the real world, I hope something similar. Here's the deeper truth. Corruption often wins early. It's agile, it's opportunistic, it exploits weakness. But corruption must constantly protect itself. It must silence. It must obscure. It has to manage narrative. Integrity does not. Integrity is stable. It does not require maintenance. It doesn't require secrecy. It waits. And when exposure comes, whether through investigative journalism, legal process, cultural reckoning, or just scrolling your Instagram feed, corruption has no defense but denial. Denial's brittle. That's why, even though honor might appear to lose in the short term, it prevails in the long arc. Not always cleanly, not always perfectly, but consistently. Game of Thrones is not telling us that honor is foolish. It's showing us the cost of integrity in a corrupt system. And then it shows us something else. When the dust settles, the future belongs to those who did not abandon their core. The throne is melted, kingdoms shift, the ruthless fade, but the Starks remain. Not because they were flawless, not because they always won, but because they endured without surrendering who they were. If this channel is about anything, it's about that. The quiet strength beneath spectacle. The moral through line beneath chaos. The fire that keeps burning long after the battle is over. If reflections like this resonate with you, stories about power, integrity, legacy, and the long arc of consequence, consider subscribing. Stay by the fire. Because honor may lose today, it may even lose tomorrow, but in the end, what's honestly truly remembered shapes what comes next. And what is remembered is rarely fear. It's character.